feels like right now in our society, career is top notch for most people. When you ask, what do? You don't ask what your family is.
Yeah.
And I look at Indigenous communities and it's still very much like, who's your family?
Yeah.
We don't care what you do. Good job for you for having a career, but what matters is what's your last name? Who are you related to? How might we be connected? And your family values, I think, are so important, because it seems like something that seems to fall like third rung on the ladder for so many people right now. And I think that we miss out on so much that cultural piece. And that's something my mom and I missed out on, was this feeling of like a real strong culture kind of later in my life. And right now I see such a value in the family dynamic, being able to have parents, being able to have grandparents, being able to have those supports. And I know that that's a dream or a luxury for so many people right now, because maybe their parents don't understand how to be parents, how to support their kids, and how to relate to them and understand their struggles and be a supportive person. And I think that part of the reason for the success of Minter Gardens is that you bring that same value to community, to culture, into Minter Gardens. And so I'm interested to know how you connected with your children and how you approached being a parent, because I think that likely that sets such a strong example. And then we can move into Minter Gardens and how that carried over, because for me, Minter Gardens was a place where we celebrated like Halloween and Christmas, and you had such festivities going on here. So I'm interested to know how that started for you in the home. How did you approach that, and how did that translate into doing celebrations here?
Well, it's kind of a mix thing. I'm, certainly not the best parent in the world. I mean, we grew up in an environment where you're always under a lot of pressure for so many things. But part of the, and it's actually quite interesting. Whatever seasonal things are important in terms of, I think, family's life. There's always birthdays and that in anniversaries and the birth of children, that type of situation. But also there's things in society. And how you take this is different. We just had a very personal interpretation. What is Valentine's Day? And I keep writing articles in the newspaper. It's no longer about your sweetheart. It's about people around you who you care about. And it's a chance to remember these people who in your life who are important. And you go to Easter. And Easter is a Christian holiday, celebrating the rebirth. Somehow shifted like Christmas away from, that to, bunnies and Easter egg hunts and so on as well. And also, every season, Thanksgiving, getting together with family, and Christmas, of course. I mean, the world, whether you're a Muslim or, any other denomination, Hindu religion or any of the religions in the world, it's funny. I get phone calls from people because, in CBC, I know everybody. Brian, I need a Christmas tree, and I want to tell you, I'm Muslim, but I want your Christmas tree, and I can't find. Can you get one to me in Vancouver and do something like that? Those types of feelings transcend a lot, and people connection, because we live in a very diverse world of many different people, and early on, I think we discovered that our kids are very much a part of that, because at Easter they would be Easter bunnies. Both the kids, they would dress up in Easter con and hand out candy to young children and so on. So that's sort of the connection we had in terms of family. At the various seasons they would dress up in Halloween costumes and so on. So the seasons, because we found that we're so fortunate. We first of all loved our customers because they were the reason we were here. Without them, we wouldn't survive. And we saw young parents come in with children and their grandparents, and that sequence of young people, becoming the mums and dads, and then becoming the grandparents, and so on. Those relationships were important to us. And through the seasons of the year and the celebrations of various aspects of what society did was a chance for us to connect with people. And I mean, little things like getting little notes from people that thanks for doing that, or kids really enjoyed that, or grandma really had a wonderful day because you said hi to them, you did something special for them, they gave you Easter candy. I guess you're talking about community, and it's what experience can you provide people that you work with and associate with and whatever, what experience can you provide that lifts their life a wee bit? Right. And I think that's it. And our kids have always been involved in that, willingly or Easter money. But the point is, they too could see that by doing things like that, it's touching people and giving them perhaps an unexpected experience that was just, maybe that was just the one thing that made their day happy. And all the way through the year, it's just what could you do to help people have a better experience? And that's what we always did. We did it as a family, and I think all of us had input in how you could do that. The things like here, the light show we did for many years. We never made money on those things. It was always, could we do something that provided a neat experience for people? And the reward was people saying, "Gosh, I really enjoyed that. That was just nice. Nice you would do something like that and that type of thing." And that's all it was for. It was for nothing else. It's certainly nothing we did made money. Some of the things like the late show, it just became too expensive to do. And the little sidebars you never hear about is when it's raining, we had the best electricians helping us get things set up, but it was never enough of generators. So some of the lights would go out, and I'm behind some of those things on the ground in the mud, holding cords together. So they would, or a lady was looking at something else and drove off in the mud, and here I am late at night myself pushing her car out of the ditch because back there, or a cold night, a lady came with a wheelchair here, and she was by herself. I don't know how she got here, so I'm pushing her through in the east wind blowing. Trying to it's those types of things that really make the difference. So it's more about creating an experience for people to make their lives just a little bit fun, and for just the purpose of being able to do that. Period. That's what it's about.
That is so amazing, because I remember going to Central School, and then they would bring us here, and we would get to have these amazing experiences and be out of the classroom for a bit and learn about the environment, learn about plants, have the light show, the train, all these different unique experiences, and to know that that was all a personal sacrifice to your business and to yourself and to your energy. It's something that I don't think gets said enough, because the good contributions that people do in the community can sometimes be just taken for granted. And so I'm grateful that you mentioned that, because I think of the town butcher out in Sardis and the impact he's made in regards to trying to share food, share positive quality food with families, trying to make it a cultural experience. I had Bill Turnbull on about a year ago, where I talked to him about the difference that makes for people who might not have that culture in their home. Maybe they can't afford a Christmas tree or stuff like that, that this is an opportunity for them to have those experiences, to feel that culture, to see lights still out front during the Christmas season. It's still it's Christmas, and these are the people I look to, because I don't put up my own lights in an apartment. To see this is where I get my culture from, and we go for drives to look at all the other people who've put up their lights, and that all comes at a personal sacrifice for other people. They have to buy the lights, they have to put it up, they have to arrange everything. And so I'm interested to know a little bit more about what those processes were like. What was the mindset behind bringing children from schools in, letting them see everything and letting them learn? Was that always part of the plan when you guys were getting started, or did you see an opportunity there to help people get access to these ideas?
Yeah, and I think it's just a question of really caring about your community and wanting to be a source for an experience for young people, and I'm a bit soft-hearted about Central because I was there, and so it's more a question of understanding the importance of youth and young people, and the single parent relationship, the children who are by themselves, children who are in foster care, children in so many really difficult situations in their lives, but also a chance for them to see something different. And the one thing about our world in terms of plants, they don't care about gender, they don't care about culture. They're just a plant who bring beauty and improve the world and so on. If we can connect that to people, that is something. And teaching young people, and we've just had so many wonderful members of our team who were good at that and sharing that experience. We still do it today with, part of the pandemic, teaching people the magic of a bulb. When you put this is how it's going to happen. And actually working with some of the teachers, particularly in gardening, to be able to share the tricks. Teachers are very good at teaching, but a lot of them do not have experience in gardening. So I've gone to many schools and tried to explain, what it's all about, and the fact that, it's very different because you're gone in June. Who's going to look after things as they ripen, and who's going to care for the gardens in the summertime, and all the pitfalls that normally would come out. So just sort of giving them a sense of learning about the art of being able to grow plants and what it takes, and how easy it can be, but how incredibly difficult it can be, and again, how do you deal with the challenges and in a positive way. So it's I don't think we did that consciously. It's just one of those things you just do. And I think with anything, you just do it because it just seems like the right thing. But there wasn't a conscious plan to go and, we're going to be this particular hero. It's a question of, isn't it great if we can do something like that, or share that particular bit of information? And it's nothing more than that, it really isn't. Yeah.
Well, because I just have to thank you, because that had a direct impact on me. I did, I think at 13 or 14, after going to Central and having those positive experiences, Jake and I tried to start our own garden on a balcony. It did not work out, but that passion and knowing you've always been a figure in our community since I was a young child to now, you absolutely did have a positive impact on my development, on my friend Jake's development, and just knowing that people have that kind of mindset of that's just what you do in a community has real benefits for the young people that you're impacting. And so I want to thank you for that, because I definitely am grateful that this place exists and that you exist, because I've known about you my whole life and the impact that you have on our community, and that you are a pillar in our community from a young age. You've always just been a role model, whether it was always conscious or unconscious. In my mind, it did have that impact.
Well, that's very, very kind. I don't see it that way myself. I just, when you see so many great people in our community, we're all holding the community together and doing little things we can. And there's so many people from all walks of life you'd never even think. So it's to be part of that community. Going back to that very situation, it's who we are as community members. Yeah. And no one is better or worse. But we're all part of this whole situation, and it really the narrow community or the broader community. That's what it is, and I go back to this thing about being Canadian. It to me means a lot to me. And how, wherever you go and how you act, and this particularly in other countries, you represent who we are. I've been very disappointed in the past 2 years in terms of who I thought Canadians really were. I guess it's a mind-blowing situation. Yes, there are people from different walks of life who look at the world differently, but we're supposed to be that kind, generous, thoughtful, helpful country. And when you see the pandemic and how people are acting, who really are being, I think, in many cases, very selfish, and spreading something that is very harmful to so many people, the thoughtlessness and so on. I didn't know we were like that. One of the great pleasures in my life is inducting new Canadians into citizenship. That is just, to me, absolutely mind-blowing. When you look at the people who are there, who are from all walks of life, have just I hope you got this up.
No.
People who have had just terrible experiences in life growing up in countries where it's just not been fun, it's been really hard, and you have a chance to, it's already been done, but you have a chance to celebrate with them their becoming Canadian citizen, taking the oath of citizenship. And I treat that as, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that this is so important because I think that we've really lost what it means to be Canadian over these past few years, and your passion and understanding of what that means, I think, is so important for people to understand.
Yeah, and when you look in their eyes, and you do the oath of citizenship in English and in French, and I make a mistake in French or whatever, and I laugh, and they laugh with me, and it shows we're on the same page. We care about this country and want to be Canadian, and when the ceremony is over, to be able to greet them, it's just that welcome to our country. It's a new opportunity for you. It's also a chance for you to bring all your knowledge and all your culture and your skills to make our country better. And it's such a moving experience for me, obviously. But and the letters that I get and the feedback and customers out of the blue, 5 years later say, Brian, I'm a Canadian and you're at the oath of citizen. I'm just so glad you were there, and just to be able to share our country with people and helping them have a better life, but at the same time, and this is so very important, is appreciating what they bring to make our country better. And that is just one of the absolutely great things that you can do, and to be in that position, to be able to do that is just so amazing. But to treat them with the greatest respect, and you're not supposed to hug them, but some of them, the older folks in particular, no matter what a culture they're from, just to be able to they give you a hug, and boy, what an honor, So that's. Talk about, and it's the broader community, who we are as Canadians, and I think a lot of us have messed that up, and we need to get back to being a country that was perceived as being fair and forthright and caring and helping other people. And so that's, from the small community to the broader community, I think we need to get back to that. But we're just blessed to have so many cultures. And I want to point out too that everything that we do these days is about understanding reconciliation from our First Nations. My grandfather was very much a loner, and I think I picked a lot from him as well. And one of the great things in his life was the elders from the First Nations around would come and sit with him on the porch at night and tell their stories. And he shared that with me, and that always stuck with me as being, what a privilege that he had to be able to have that. And we, at the university, made many of the leaders and particularly the elders, professors and honorary doctors and so on. And sorry, this is tough.
I'm so grateful that you're sharing this, though.
One of the ladies, and when I would see them, they'd come in, they didn't know anybody. It's like a foreign, these are educators, and they're, wearing gowns and stuff like that. And I'd see these wonderful elders come in. I'd go and sit with them and laugh and joke and kid around and so on. So that was fine. Everything was done and whatever, and then they have a dinner to recognize them afterwards. And this gentleman was with his family, and so I sat with another group. I didn't know who they were, and they were from a support group for First Nations from the government. And the lady said, "You should be very, very proud, Brian." And I said, "Why?" And he said, I'm sorry, too emotional. he said, you should be very proud, Brian. And I said, why is that? And he said, well, I asked Mr. And there was several of those wonderful folks, what was the best part of the day? He said, the time they spent with you. And I was also had the privilege of speaking to the Invasive Plant Council in Vancouver, and the people from all over the world were there. And the great thing about any of these meetings right now is we have First Nations come, and these folks are particularly amazing. They non-discriminatory, but the white folks and diversity and so on like that, and said, this is our heritage, this is our land, and we welcome you. And they were just so good at their songs, and their presentation of say, when you leave, we want you to make sure that you and enjoy yourself and you get home safely. And so at the end of that, the gentleman in charge said, Brian Minter. And I said, why now? What did I do? He said, we want to thank you on behalf of First Nations. Of all the people, you have been so supportive, so helpful, and working with us over the years. And so I thought, that blew me away. I can't even talk about that. How important that is to me, non-deserving, but also we are now with tourism. I think we're the first in the country working with our local First Nations. We had a First Nations Advisory Council, Dan from Kamloops, who is a First Nations consultation firm. We got together for 3 days, or parts of 3 days, to talk about how we can work. And the best we could hope for was to be a trusted friend, to have that relationship. So we spent 3 days of working together. And oh my gosh, did we learn an awful lot, understanding this whole settlement issue and this whole, privilege, the white privilege we have and the entitlement that we have, that never even give a thought to oh my gosh, here's these wonderful folks we live with and don't even appreciate and understand them. But going through that process and gaining their respect and trust. So we have kind of the first agreement, we think, in the country in terms of how we work together. That they will be on our tourism board as representatives of First Nations as we move forward together in building tourism and all the First Nation things. But it's those types of relationships that are absolutely so important and so precious, and begin to understand the horrible situation that they've gone through, residential schools, but to be able for them to see beyond that and actually work with us to build kind of a beginning of a new relationship. So, and when you talk about community, that's just an amazing community right there. So I've referenced to my grandfather. I've always had this, really respect, and we have so many First Nations friends who, come and give you a hug all the time. It's like, wow, how privileged am I, type of thing. So that's sort of,
That is absolutely beautiful. And I honestly want to appreciate you for sharing that emotion, because that is what I'm hoping people get out of this. Is, to me right now, it feels like everything in the public forum is lip service. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel honest. It doesn't feel connected to the community. And that's one of my biggest frustrations, and part of the reason I started this is because I do believe we have leaders and role models in our community. They're just not holding political office in the federal government or in the provincial government. We don't have those voices who genuinely value the connections they have in the community. And so I think for a lot of listeners, they're going to get so much out of what you just said and how this really impacts you, because that is the whole idea of media, is to remove the emotion. And I'm really against that, because then you don't get to know people's true intention. And it's clear through what you were just discussing that you care, that you genuinely understand. And I think of Indigenous communities that don't have the greenery, that don't have the gardening experience. And I think of people like yourself as stewards, so that when Indigenous communities are ready, they can come here and they can get started, and the resources, the knowledge, and the wisdom of how to take care of these plants and how to take our role back as stewards for our environment and for our areas and for our land. I think that that sets such a strong example, because I'm sure that many of those Indigenous people do come here to learn, to reconnect with things that we've lost in our culture for so long.
Yeah, and I think the issue is just being so insular and not understanding, having a clue about how important and the resources they bring. It's their stories and their history, and the one thing that I got out of the meeting with the two chiefs and Allison and I and Dave Sheppy, who is such an important. He works for First Nations, and he's so great. The five of us, but. Chief Dave and Jimmy and Ernie, they both said, you know, when the elders talk to us, they say, this is what we want you to do, but do it in a good way. So everything we've done right now is, you know, we're going to do that, but we're going to do it in a good way. And that understanding of how important it is to the context of what that really means. And totally oblivious to that, and until we had the sharing of that experience. So whatever we do right now, even personally, let's do it in a good way.